Let me tell you about the AKG Lyra microphone. This is one of the few microphones I can say that can stand on the same level as the infamous Blue Yeti microphones. In terms of the specifications and for the price you pay for this, it's a steal, and I genuinely wonder why a mic like this within the USB microphone market isn't talked about as much. Let's start with the packaging contents. Coming right out of the box, you get the mic itself, the stand, a 2-meter USB Type-C to A 2.0 cable instead of the usual mini USB cable, and a mounting adapter to put on a boom arm, which is what I recommend over the included desk stand, because hunching over the mic would get tiring after long periods of usage. It does also come with Alberton Live 10 Lite, which, as the name implies, is a light version of a software that helps users to create music, which I don't have any use for, but if you're interested in it, then it is included. The measurements of the mic come out to about 152.5mm in length, 107.9mm in width, and 247.5mm in height. And looking at the design, it gives off a vintage look, which I find to be unique in the current market, while also being coupled with modern features, welcoming ones like detachable Type-C connection, which I applaud AKG for, as that trend has risen to become the standard over micro, mini, and lightning USB connections over the years. It adds some features like RGB, which I personally find redundant, unlike on other modern USB microphones, especially like a certain company like HyperX that couples Type-C connection with RGB effects and charges $50+ more for essentially a clone version of their microphone. Anyways, the specifications are as follows, and bear with me as I try to explain them as best as I can. To start with the simple aspects, there is a convenient mute button located in the front. There is no included or pre-installed pop filter, which isn't necessary since you can just buy one for dirt cheap on sites like Amazon or eBay. It does come with a shock mount installed internally, which in all honesty does an alright job on its own, but it wouldn't hurt to add another one if you can. It is compatible with Windows and Mac as expected, but it even works with Android, Apple, and tablets through a separate Type-C to C cable or using a Type-C to A adapter to utilize the included cable. And as shown in the diagrams for Androids, they need to be on-the-go compatible. And thankfully this is easy to find out by downloading a simple app I found called USB On-the-Go Checker, and if a green checkmark appears, then it means it will work with your Android phone. So bear that in mind. It has a frequency response of 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz, which I will say that these frequency response levels are actually typical for most USB mics around this mic's price point, including ones like the HyperX Quadcast, the Blue Yeti Nano and Pro, and yes, the Blue Yeti Pro is the same as this, and the Razer Siren X to name a few. A lowest frequency of 20 Hz will help to record bass, and a highest frequency of 20,000 Hz will be helpful for recording treble. To elaborate a bit on what I mean, I'll need to explain what exactly is bass and treble. See, sound is produced from vibrations, and how fast those vibrations are is called frequency, and the human ear is sensitive to a variety of vibration ranges. The smaller and faster vibrations are called treble, and they tend to be very ear-piercing. And the bigger, slower vibrations are what we call bass, and if loud enough, they can vibrate your entire body. And everything else is called mid-range. A more simpler way of thinking about these two elements is think of bass as the voice of some grown adult males, and treble as a typical voice of a little girl. It has an included transducer, meaning it can convert audio signals from one form to another, with 4 optional polling patterns being located at the corners of it as shown here on the official product page. At the front of the mic, slightly worded differently, they are worded as followed. Front being the cardioid pattern, meaning it will pick up my voice the clearest at the front of the mic instead of from behind or on the sides of the microphone. Front and back being the bidirectional pattern, meaning it will pick up my voice clearly at the front and the back but not on the sides. Tight stereo being the stereoed pattern, which will split the audio into 2 channels through your left speaker and through your right speaker. And finally, wide stereo being the omnidirectional pattern, which will pick up sound through all the capsules all around the mic no matter where you are and will be very sensitive to sound. So plenty of options to choose from for your needs. In fact, on their official quick start guide, here you can see in the helpful tips section, they nicely lay out what each capsule is about and recommend it for individual scenarios if you ever need a quick reminder. It also has a bitrate or depth of 24 with a sample rate of 192,000 kHz for crystal clear audio, which they also advertise it as 4K compatible Ultra HD audio, which I will touch up upon later, and a maximum sound pressure level, or SPL, being 129 decibels, meaning if necessary, it can get really loud without sounding distorted. But be mindful of your ears and levels, otherwise you might start to sound like one of those people on Xbox 360 voice chat.
Dude, why is it that when I flash somebody, it's like I just slapped them in the face with a fucking napkin from a little kid's birthday party?
Next, let's look at the 3.5mm audio output jack located underneath the microphone. It offers zero latency monitoring. It has a frequency response range of 20Hz to 22,000Hz, which is actually in line with most current gaming headsets and headphones. It has an impedance of 16 ohms, which is lower than the average mics with one, and what this means is that you can get a higher volume that requires less power, because of course listening to anything at a higher volume with headphones or even earphones and speakers requires more power to output that volume level. So basically, lower impedance is better. It also has a signal-to-noise ratio, or SNR, of 98 decibels, and what this is when you have headphones plugged into the audio output on the mic, the audio signal is coming from your vibrations of your voice, converting it into an electrical signal or digital signal when the mic picks it up, and then back into an analog signal when playing back to your headphones. And through this conversion, a certain amount of noise is present in the signal, or static as most people know it is. So what a higher SNR means is that there is less of that noise, and as a result, the audio quality sounds more clearer. Finally, it has a total harmonic distribution, or THD, of less than 0.009%, which is incredibly low. And what this is the difference between the actual sound signal and all the distortion products in the audible range you set it at. In basic terms, the lower the number, the less distortion, resulting in better audio fidelity. Even if you did want to measure the distortion in your audio, it would require a very quiet room, practically a closed-off chamber, to even remotely hear the distortion, which for most people would be difficult and honestly unnecessary to do. Now it's time for some negatives about the microphone. The build quality is something people immediately criticize about when talking about their first impressions of it, and I can see why. Where the stand itself is made out of metal to firmly hold it, the mic itself is made out of plastic, including the knobs and the grill, which does have a bit of give to it. And compared to a Blue Yeti Pro, it kind of gives the impression that AKG cut corners on the build quality in order to price it competitively and offer sound quality compared to that of a Blue Yeti mic. And to play devil's advocate, I personally don't mind the compensation of build quality for great sound quality and value. I mean, it's not like you're going to be touching it a lot when you're using it, and assuming you're going to, majority of the time, be mostly using something like this at home, it's only going to be in one place and remain undamaged as long as you don't try to physically fidget with it all the time. Another critique I see and hear about is the lack of a sound level indicator, and as much as of a convenience it would be to see my current audio level instead of having to manually find out every time, to me, it isn't really a huge loss when looking at the price you pay for it. There is this similar USB microphone released last year called the JLab Talk Pro that is practically the same as what the AKG Lyra offers. However, that one does have an LED sound level indicator and RGB if you care about that. On the official product pages, they cost the same, being $149 US, and on Amazon, it is $30 more Australian compared to the AKG Lyra, which was $189 when I bought it. And honestly, if you're not that much of a stickler of RGB, then I don't see the point in spending a bit more on an LED sound level indicator when it doesn't really affect audio quality at all. Before, I did mention that I would touch upon the high bitrate and sample rate later, and now this is the part of the video where I want to explain how the mic sounds better instead of just saying, it sounds good, or it makes my voice sound clearer. However, keep in mind that I may say it sounds good, but that can be heavily influenced by your environment that you decide to record in. My room is not very well treated, so technically it can sound generally better, but that's irrelevant. Firstly, as I stated before, the mic has a bitrate of 24 compared to 16-bit, and what does this mean? Well, computers store information in zeros and ones, and these values are called bits. Basically, the higher the bitrate, the more space for information to be stored. See, when a signal is picked up from the microphone, it needs to be sampled, and it needs to store that sample audio information into bits. The result being that a 24-bit rate sample can store more nuances and be more precise when picking up audio samples compared to a 16-bit rate sample. In fact, here is a chart explicitly showing the difference in how much information a 24-bit rate sample can pick up compared to a 16-bit rate sample. Quite the massive difference. Of course, with it being 24-bit, that also leaves headroom, meaning there's enough room to eliminate the possibility of excessive noise, or clipping as they say, that makes your voice sound distorted when it happens. Secondly, I mentioned that the microphone has a sample rate up to 192,000 kHz. And basically, sample rate is similar to frame rate in videos, but for digital audio recordings. So what a higher sample rate means is that it gets closer to the original analog sound or signal, which results in more clarity, fidelity, and less distortion in your voice. Hence why it is commonly used in Blu-ray discs, for example. So when they go on their marketing packaging about having 4K compatible Ultra HD audio, it's just marketing bullshit, as there's no such thing as 4K compatible audio, as that is just a reference to the specs being 24-bit rate and 192,000 kHz sample rate. Another thing with 24-bit rate and 192,000 kHz is that it allows you to freely manipulate the audio recording and have sufficient memory storage without losing quality or clarity, which is pretty good, but also why it is highly priced on mics like this. However, even though having a higher bitrate and higher sample rate are for the most part better, they do make your file size much bigger compared to 16-bit 44,100 or 48,000 kHz. However, it is exchanged for higher audio fidelity of your audio recordings, so keep that in mind. So throughout this review, I have been talking to my Asus ROG Phone 3 microphone, and now I finally want to do a small sound test comparison, to perhaps try to put it into more of a practical example of just how this mic sounds compared to other mics I have at my disposal right now. The birch canoe slid on the smooth planks. Glue the sheet to the dark blue background. It's easy to tell the depth of a well. These days, a chicken leg is a rare dish. Rice is often served in round bowls. The juice of lemons makes fine punch. The box was thrown beside the parked truck. The hogs were fed chopped corn and garbage. 4 hours of steady work faced us. Large size in stockings is hard to sell. The boy was there when the sun rose. A rod is used to catch pink salmon. The source of the huge river is the clear spring. Kick the ball straight and follow through. Help the woman get back to her feet. A pot of tea helps to pass the evening. Smoky fires lack flame and heat. The soft cushion broke the man's fall. The salt breeze came across from the sea. The girl at the booth sold 50 bonds. The small pup gnawed a hole in the sock. The fish twisted and turned on the bent hook. Press the pants and sew a button on the vest. The swan dive was far short of perfect. The beauty of the view stunned the young boy. 2 bluefish swam in the tank. Her purse was full of useless trash. The colt reared and threw the tall rider. It snowed, rained, and hailed the same morning. Read verse out loud for pleasure. Hoist the load to your left shoulder. Take the winding path to reach the lake. Note closely the size of the gas tank. Wipe the grease off his dirty face. Mend the coat before you go out. The wrist was badly strained and hung limp. The stray cat gave birth to kittens. The young girl gave no clear response. The meal was cooked before the bell rang. What joy there is in living! A king ruled the state in the early days. The ship was torn apart on the sharp reef. Sickness kept him home the 3rd week. The wide road shimmered in the hot sun. The lazy cow lay in the cool grass. Lift the square stone over the fence. The rope will bind the 7 books at once. Hop over the fence and plunge in. The friendly gang left the drugstore. Mesh wire keeps chickens inside. The frosty air passed through the coat. The crooked maze failed to fool the mouse. Adding fast leads to wrong sums. The show was a flop from the very start. A saw is a tool used for making boards. The wagon moved on well-oiled wheels. March the soldiers past the next hill. A cup of sugar makes sweet fudge. Place a rose bush near the porch steps. Both lost their lives in the raging storm. We talked of the slideshow in the circus. Use a pencil to write the first draft. He ran halfway to the hardware store. The clock struck to mark the 3rd period. A small creek cut across the field. Cars and buses stalled in snow drifts. The set of china hit the floor with a crash. This is a grand season for hikes on the road. The dun rose from the edge of the water. Those words were the cue for the actor to leave. So if trying to explain how good the mic sounds and comparing the specs to other standalone USB microphones like the Razer Siren Mini, the HyperX Quadcast, the Solocast, the normal Blue Yeti, the Blue Yeti X, the Blue Yeti Pro, and the Blue Snowball, the AKG Lyra can compete with top-level performance. And honestly, for half the price of a Blue Yeti Pro mic, you get a microphone that offers the same sound quality as one of them with the features of a HyperX Quadcast and then some. But hey, don't take my opinion on it. I took the liberty of asking some of my friends who, in all honesty, as average consumers, aren't all that technical and picky about their setup gear, about their opinions on this mic. And I did some testing alongside them. So here's an outsider's opinion on this. This is one of the other things I was trying to show you. Here.
Ah, yeah, plastic wrap.
Yeah, you can have it.
Alright. So, again, I don't know much about microphones. Like, when it comes to gaming and all that, but from what it looks like...
What are your first impressions of it?
First impressions, it looks like it's professional.
Well,
it looks professional.
What if I told you it was essentially a microphone that's trying to replicate what the Blue Yeti can do?
Does it?
Yes, it does in terms of features.
Yeah. Let's just open it up and have a look. All you need to make music. Yep. Paperwork. Alright. Congratulations. What's in the box? That's all normal stuff. Let's actually have a look at the mic. So it's actually smaller than I was thinking, actually. By taking this out, pulling that off.
Oh yeah.
Huh. Is that a mountain? What would that be for?
Mounting adapter.
Yeah, what's in the box? Oh, that would be a stand adapter. Yeah. Okay. Pulling that out. So, first impressions, I like the look of it. It's different.
So what do you think? The difference?
There is...
From what you were using before to this one?
It's so much clearer. Having them actually side by side. Yeah, there's such a difference. Oh yeah.
What are your final thoughts on it?
Final thoughts? How much is it again?
$189.
$189.
Compared to like a Blue Yeti or a HyperX Quadcast.
I probably wouldn't... Again, a microphone isn't as useful to me because the only thing I'm using it for is like Discord calls and all that. I'm not streaming myself. If I was streaming, then I would probably... For my budget now, would probably be $150.
Oh.
So it's just over that, I'd say. But for the quality that it presents, it holds its own.
Do you think the pros outweigh the cons?
Pardon?
Cons being like build quality, maybe like the volume down, not having any indicators.
Yeah. I do like that it has the gain control on the microphone and that you are able to edit it mid-use if you need to. But also, I'd rather have those on the back just because I wouldn't be using those as much as like a mute switch, for example. But again, if you're comparing it to like pair of headphones, like if you got a decent pair of headphones with a good microphone on them, I feel like a desk microphone wouldn't be as necessary.
So definitely would probably recommend a boom arm.
Yeah, I definitely recommend a boom arm, and because of that too, when we were testing before, I did bump my monitor when I was going to switch to change the gain, and you did hear that through the microphone. So being that it's on a stand, you'd be able to hear every single bump. You'd definitely be able to hear your keyboard in it. But again, a boom arm could fix a lot of that as well as playing around with that gain control.
So did you enjoy your time with it?
Well, I enjoyed it, yeah. Again, I don't have the biggest use for it, so I don't. But if someone
For,
asked me about a good mic, I'd recommend this one, but probably not above a Blue Yeti.
so would you say that for someone who can't exactly afford an XLR microphone,
Yeah,
would you say that's probably the next best thing before jumping
yeah,
to an XLR
definitely,
mic?
definitely for the price it's at.
And would you put it on the same level or around the same level as a Blue Yeti?
Yeah, definitely. For the price, like it's definitely not going to have all the features of a Blue Yeti, but for the price it's
No.
at, if it's like just recording audio, if it's not for actual like sound engineering or anything like that, then I'd suggest something else. But if it's not for that, then this would be a perfect counterpart. Like you don't have to do much. It's got a decent amount of features. It'd be a good entry level thing.
Okay. All right.
Huh.
Especially if you can afford it.
Especially if you can afford it too, because it's actually a decent price compared to a lot of other microphones.
So would you recommend it?
Yeah, yeah, pretty
If
much,
you
yeah.
could? Well then, I'm glad you liked it though. Okay, Nathan. So currently, right now, as best as you can, how would you describe how I sound? At least right now, before I actually get into the other ones.
Well, a lot of vibration, should I say,
Vibration.
with your mic. Yeah, like I, it's
So
it's
is
not
this okay?
as clear. Like,
Is it the same as before? Like, can you hear like what the my voice bouncing
like
off
I
the
like I hear you, like your voice,
It sounds clear
like
and
your voice
everything.
sounded like. Yeah, it's like clear, but like yeah, it's like vibration that comes along with it.
And then, oh, let me get it close. Now, this is what it's like with the headset one now. Uh, it being practically right next to me instead of on the actual laptop. And then now, this one being the standalone mic now.
And now
And I think I have to turn
down
it
the
up.
really quiet one.
No, here, let me just turn it all the way up now. There we go. Now, that's it. Now, I basically turned it up to a decibel where it is manageable now. And so essentially, did that give you any idea? Did that,
Any idea of?
your opinion of all three of them?
Well,
Did you want to hear the second one?
the
One more time?
second, go second one. Go second one.
Okay, alright. Okay, now this should be the second one if you can hear it.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I can move it a lot closer, but it's already pretty close as it is,
And the sound's fine.
and it doesn't
Mm,
sound any more. What's the word? Muffled, if you know what I mean.
not really.
It still sounds pretty clear.
Oh, definitely. Still better than the. What's
Okay,
it
but
called?
could you at least say that the second and third one are clearer than the first one?
Oh, that's without doubt, man.
You would say without a
That's
doubt.
without doubt.
Well,
Yeah.
it is what it is. It does go without saying that you would never use a laptop mic. Do you want me to swap back to the third one, or is there no need?
Swap back to the third one because,
Okay.
like, I'll be real because before, before it was like super clear, but now it's kind of sounding similar.
Okay. Now I'll swap back to the standalone one now, and then I put it practically right next to me.
That's what I heard from the second one. Are you sure you didn't mix it,
What?
bro?
No?
You didn't mix it?
Yeah.
Is this the one where you turn up and down?
Yeah, man. This is the Lyra one. See? Look, I'm turning it up right now, and I can turn it lower now.
My brain is very confused. Because now this sounds familiar, right? Like
Familiar?
this sounds, yeah, familiar in a sense that I've heard this one before, and it sounds mint.
Really?
But maybe it's when you turned it up.
Well,
Maybe.
okay. Well, it must be because either I turned up the gain, which I can obviously just turn down again, or I brought it a lot closer to my mouth, which maybe that's the case. I brought it
Yeah.
I brought it closer to my mouth,
Uh,
away from the
yeah.
laptop, and I don't know if that made it better or not.
Yeah, I do think that makes a big difference.
So, okay, so now would you
Because
say, would they be about the same, or would it sound better?
no, now I actually now like I actually think if you're not like putting your thing or your mouth right up to the mic and stuff, I would say that I'd definitely say that the one you're on right now is better.
Really? Oh, now you see. See, now that makes sense
Yeah,
because
see, now that makes sense
because
because
the
now
spec.
you're not like trying to break it.
What did I sound like before then?
You sounded the like pretty much exact same as the other one.
Okay, granted, when I was doing it earlier, I was leaning forward, and it was
Okay.
closer to the mic, and now it's like it's quite far from the laptop, and I'm more closer to it. I mean, if I get any closer, I'm practically gonna be touching it with my lips.
Moi.
Yeah.